I realized that actually my idea of success was do something for a living that I was passionate about. Think about what does this business need to mean for you, not the other way around. If you can't really detach yourself and your worth from the output of your work, it can be tricky. So it's not the effort that you put into things, it's the result that you get out of things that determine if you're successful or not and if things are going well or not. I wish that somebody told me earlier on that I wasn't any less if I reached out for help earlier.
Hi, Val. This is the Before the Lights Go On. And I have a special guest. You are a coach. You are a person who likes to help a lot of international out there. I would like to start asking a bit some questions backwards. So not who are you today, but maybe who were you 10 or maybe 15 years ago? Who was Val and what she was trying to figure it out?
First of all, thank you for having me here, Andrei. It's really nice to talk to you. I think actually it's interesting. 11 years ago, which is when I first started my journey as an international, like I went abroad for the first time. And actually the whole Val persona, if we want to talk about it, like that didn't exist because that came to be as I ventured abroad for the first time. So I'm from Italy originally, but my father is from Poland. So I grew up in some international background, but born and raised in Italy. And I've always had this longing for going abroad. It was always in the cards, I think, for me to just like explore other places. And I had the opportunity to do my master's in Copenhagen, Denmark. And at that time, I had no idea even what Copenhagen was all about or Denmark. Like for me, it was just somewhere very far north. But before that, I actually did a few months in California where I lived there for like 4 months. I did an internship in an art gallery, which was very interesting. And then I came here and I did my studies. Then I decided, I'm not sure if I'm going to stay. I'm going to have another experience in Canada. So I went there for another 4 months. Then I came back and then I basically wanted to work within the arts field, but figured out it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be as a non-local. So I ended up working in sales in the tech industry, which is something completely different than what I was thinking of doing. And I back then considered myself the least technical person ever. Like I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But I actually figured out that I really love to talk to people and I really love to solve problems for others. So sales actually made a lot of sense and I learned a lot. And then from there, I switched another couple of times. I did quite a few pivots. I went to customer success. Then I did some more internal like customer marketing and operations in other software companies until I actually realized that, I was really craving doing my own thing and just doing similar things, but for myself and not for someone else and their agenda, but just having my own agenda, what I'm passionate about. So that's how I then came to coaching and mentoring. And that's now how I implement all my sales and marketing background and knowledge and coaching in helping people basically start their own business abroad. Just like how I combine, the whole expat sales and then what I do now, it kind of all came together into what I'm doing today, I guess. And yeah, this is just about that.
There's this like nice quote from Steve Jobs that I really like. It was a speech at Stanford, and he said that you can connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards, right? And regarding that, was it, if you look backwards, was it something you were trying to solve or you were trying to figure it out, find more about yourself? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think to be honest with you, like in the very beginning, it was very unconscious and like not intentional because I think like when you're young, like in your early 20s, you are always looking for something, but you don't really know what that is. So maybe it's more like your intuition that is telling you something or trying to tell you something, and then you end up taking maybe one opportunity instead of another, or like ending up in certain environments instead of others because you're trying to follow that, but you don't necessarily know what that means or where you end up in the end. And I think that a lot of my early day, like my early career was like that. It's like, oh, well, I guess I can learn more doing this and I know nothing about it, but I'm just gonna follow it because I love learning and I feel like I'm creative. So I like to just experience new things. I'm generally curious as a person. And then later on, I think I realized that there was something about this curiosity and loving to work with people that is really close to who I am as a person. And that there was a point then when I decided that I wanted to be more intentional about what I did with that. Instead of just following open opportunities here and there as they came, to just be more in charge and more in control of, okay, what am I doing with this thing that it's kind of calling me, right? The whole working with other people and just being curious about other people and their journeys. So I think there was a point maybe I would say 2, 3 years ago, when I actually realized I would feel like I need to do something for myself. I need to open my own business. I just didn't know what exactly. And then later thinking about what am I called towards, I came to coaching and mentoring because that was something I was already doing, but just unconsciously. So yeah, I guess that was the transition between doing it without knowing and then becoming intentional about it.
So in that moment, how was that moment actually felt? Because there's a lot of people, and I think you know probably better than me in coaching, that they want to start something. They have this drive, but they don't know exactly where to start, how to start. I bet it was a bit
Mm.
uncomfortable, maybe a bit scary. How did you manage to the day zero? How did that day come?
Yeah. So I think it is hard to, first of all, be honest with yourself and just really say, okay, I'm actually doing something about this feeling that I have. Because a lot of people, of course, they have this feeling of, I want to go and do something. But because of course of the fears that you mentioned as well, right? And because it may seem a big jump to do, they say, oh, but not now, because maybe later, maybe later. And so the first thing was for me to actually sit down and say, okay, Val, if you don't if you don't try, if you don't give this a try, you will regret it later on. And there is no better time than now because of also, you know, very realistically speaking, my financial situation, my environment, it was like a good moment for me to try this out. And I had savings, I had some financial runway I could count on. But also, I think the first step was really to say, let me just find more about that. Like what does that mean? Like what would that mean for me to have my own business and to have that type of life and just really envision what that could look like for myself, and how I could see myself in it. Because once you do that, I think you start. It's like an identity shift, because if you're used to work for someone else all these years, it's also hard to just imagine yourself as an entrepreneur. For example, a lot of people, they come to me as like, oh, but I don't see myself really as an entrepreneurial person. And I'm also like, well, but do you like to build things? Do you like to, are you a creator? Like, do you like to make new processes, create new things? There's already something there. You're just not paying attention to it. But if you sit down and really see yourself as that person, then it becomes a bit more real, and you can start thinking about the logistics and the actual what does it take afterwards. But what I tell my clients, for example, when we start is always like, think about what does this business need to mean for you, not the other way around. It's like this business is meant to integrate your life and the life you want for yourself, and not the opposite. Because I mean, that's kind of the whole point of doing your own thing, is because you want something more in your life. So I think that is a good starting point. And then, to be honest, it's just about, you don't have to think about doing everything all at once at the very beginning. Just start small, start with like talking to people, collect a lot of information. I remember in the very beginning, what I did was this, even before getting certified as a coach. I through my insurance company, I saw they actually started offering coaching, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna book all my hours that I have available, and not only am I gonna experience coaching, but I'm also gonna ask these people, how did you get into this? Like, what are you doing? How does that work? What does it mean to be a coach? And I gained so much knowledge, and then I started reaching out to other people online, getting to know others that were on the same path, maybe a bit ahead of me. And I mean, then slowly, of course, you try things out and you build from there. So really just start by envisioning what that means for you and then collect information. Yeah.
That's really powerful because I think in your example with small steps, I think sometimes this pictures of starting your own business, it's misinterpreted. I don't know from where it comes, but everyone imagine that they have to do big things and then start big and then give up
Mm.
on their career and sell a house or something, right? So I'm wondering if there is any shift in how you saw success in the beginning of this journey, like 10 years ago, and if that kind of influenced you and then shifted along the way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a very good question, by the way. Thank you for asking. I see that a lot with the generations, like our parents' generation, at least for me, it was very much you do your bachelor, you do your master's degree, then you get a job, and then you need to make sure that you earn more money, and then you buy a house, and then like this basically predefined order of things, and that kind of defined what success means. If you reach all these steps by a certain age or whatever. And so a lot of me 10 years ago believed that. Somehow I was like, I wasn't necessarily questioning it. I was, of course, I'm gonna study and I'm gonna do my bachelor. Of course, I'm gonna do my master's, and yeah, of course, I'm gonna find a job, and then I'm gonna progress and I'm gonna get more. And it served me. I'm not gonna deny that it didn't serve me, because I think that if I wasn't pushed in a certain way, maybe I wouldn't have gained all of the experience that I gained. But it just, at some point, it just didn't make any more sense. That idea of success was just not my idea of success. It was some form of stereotyped idea of success. And I realized that actually my idea of success was do something for a living that I was passionate about, and that I could craft my work around that and not just abide by some preset rules of how many hours we should work in a day. And that's from exactly 9 to 5. Denmark is pretty flexible about that, but still there are rules. And it just it just didn't sit with me. I thought these are obsolete. It's an obsolete way we're working, and the whole corporate and also startup environment, for how creative and flexible it is, still plays by those rules. I just couldn't do that anymore. I was like, I need to find my own way of doing things. And so my new idea of success became more about do work that it's not easy, but you can do it with ease. It's like two different things, because nothing is easy. Like doing your business, not easy. Working in corporate, not easy. But I feel way more at ease overcoming the struggles and the challenges of having my own business, because of this alignment that I have with what I'm doing, rather than the idea of success of climbing the ladder and all of that, which I thought that's what I wanted, but I actually didn't really care. So yeah, I guess that's how it changed my idea of success over the years.
Usually when you choose a path that is sometimes different from
Mm.
others, you face some challenges, either from family or from friends or from the environment. Was it that something
Oh
that
yeah.
happened to you? And if so, how did you manage to go forward?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm still facing them. I'm not gonna lie. It would be very dishonest of me to just say everything is going just blissfully fine. Also, because of course, when I work with people, I relate to their challenges because they're very fresh and real for me as well. So that's when I think the work is valuable. But to answer your question, I think, well, at first, of course, family, for what I just mentioned before, didn't quite understand the choice. It's not that they objected to it, because I've been living abroad for quite a while. So I have been outside of that family dynamic for a while now. So it's actually been out of my own home I left when I was 18. So there's not a lot they can do about it, but it's just knowing that they are still quite worried for me, because they're like, oh my God, is she gonna make it? Is she gonna make enough money? And what if her business doesn't go well, and so on. But it's because of that mentality stuck into corporate job, stable job. Nowadays, I'm sorry to say, no job is stable. There's no such thing as job stability as we saw it some years ago, because we all see that there's like fire rounds everywhere, things change, political climate is all over the place. And this is not just to discourage people, but actually it's like there's so much more opportunity now. There's no time like now than doing and going and trying your own thing and have different revenue streams. But of course, my family might not necessarily get that, because they've experienced something different, and that's okay. But you need to be able to somehow distance yourself and understand the context of where people come from. My husband is very supportive of me, but he's not also, I'm not gonna lie, he's also sometimes a little bit tense about, before we were dual income family. with like a fixed salary every month, and now my salary is not fixed. Some months is a bit higher, some months is a bit lower, and of course, that can create some form of not tension, but I would say, he doesn't understand necessarily, like, because he's not in it. So business, it can be a lonely place, because unless you find yourself with other people that are doing the same thing, the people that are not in this path can try to relate to you, but only to a certain degree. And that's also why I'm a big promoter of community among entrepreneurs. That's why I do group coaching, because I think it's really impactful when you have other people in the same situation that can relate to the same problems. And now, also started a community here in Copenhagen with people that are having businesses to just meet for breakfast and really share these challenges, because it can be a lonely place for exactly this reason, that other people may not necessarily get it. So it's important to surround yourself with new people that can understand, because you cannot expect also, I think, your parents maybe or other friends that are not on this path to completely understand what that means. It's not their fault. It's not that there is a bad intention behind it. They just cannot.
In this path, I imagine there were like moments maybe when you have, I don't know, something we can call failure or something that didn't feel right. Maybe at the end of the journey, you realize it was okay. Maybe you learned something from that. I'm really curious how you deal with these moments of, high stress, disappointment.
I've always been a person that cared a lot about my work in general. So that means a lot about, what I'm doing now, of course. I care a lot. I care even more possibly than before, because it's something that I decided that I'm doing, and I'm doing it but for myself and by myself. But also before, when I was working in different companies, I used to care a lot, and maybe sometimes that can be too much, because if you can't really detach yourself and your worth from the output of your work, it can be tricky, because then I think it's also, again, part of our generation. We were raised in thinking that, and not just to blame our parents for everything, it's our responsibility to do something about it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But that we attach the worth to output and not input. So it's not the effort that you put into things, is the result that you get out of things that determine if you're successful or not, and if things are going well or not. So it takes a while to, first of all, detach from the results of your work to your own worth, and also to start valuing more the effort and the input that you put into things rather than what comes out of it, because that part, it's somewhat also outside of your control. Because I mean, and that applies to both, like, people working for someone and working for themselves. Like, I think it's the same. But I can, for example, I can post so much on LinkedIn, and that's the effort and that's my input. But ultimately, and I can get better at it, and I can see what works and what doesn't. But ultimately, the output of it, which is, how many followers, how many people comment, how many people reach out to me, that is something that is inherently a little bit out of my control. I mean, again, I can only control the input, but not the output of it. So I cannot consider that if a post is not doing as well, like, immediately go to, it means it doesn't work and I'm a failure. Like, it's important to kind of detach yourself from that mentality, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult. And I am myself learning to do that less and to detach. So to detach this, again, the work and the result of the work from your worth as a person. Because of course, as a person, you're many things. You're not just what you do. And there's a lot of things that ultimately matter more than your outputs and your results, which is how you are with people, how you show up for yourself, how graceful you are to yourself, to others, how fast you can bounce back from failures or mistakes, what you learn from your experiences. Like, these are all things that are not necessarily attached to an output, but they're so important, I think. So I'm learning myself in the process more and more of doing that. Yeah.
What would be a good advice you give yourself to do better, or maybe something you didn't know back then, but now you realize kind of was would have been nice to knew it beforehand?
I think one thing that immediately came to mind when you asked that is that I didn't have to do it alone. I mean, and still now, I don't have to do it alone. It's like, because I think I've always been a very independent person, going to studies in another city. Then I went abroad by myself. Okay, I didn't know anyone. And then I'm okay, I'm doing my business. So I clearly have that tendency of saying, okay, I'm just doing things by myself as I want them to. And I think it's great. But, sometimes it can lean into I think I have to do everything on my own without reaching out for support and help. And I think that both earlier in my career, but also now, I think that every time I had some help from a mentor, from a coach, I have my own coach now, for example, to help me with my business as I help others, because I also think you need to practice what you preach. So of course I have my own coach, but it's always like, don't be afraid to ask for external help from people that have been through already what you are going through, that maybe can give you perspective, that even just can understand what you're going through and like your own experience, right? Because it's so valuable to just be able to, as we talked before, like it can be a lonely place, both like the journey as a international, but also building your business, and maybe if you're a parenthood, like so many journeys in life can be lonely journeys. And I think we all can learn more about just reaching out and asking for support for people that have been through the things or know a little bit more. Because like for me, I wish that somebody told me earlier on that I wasn't any less if I reached out for help earlier, instead of thinking I had to prove to myself that I could do it by myself. Because like it just makes no sense. What you have to prove, like you're doing the thing, that's proof enough, right? It doesn't matter if you're actually doing it through support from someone. It's actually smarter to do it with some external support. So now I have multiple way that I reach out to people for support all the time. So I think it's honestly priceless.
That's that's really valuable. I think every time I have a conversation with someone else, it's so amazing that everyone has a different sort of advice, but they all come together at something common, right? That we need to ask for help. We have to unlearn things in the past and then have a new vision.
Mm.
Who is Val today? What are you most excited about in your work? What are you doing? What do you want to reach?
Who is Val today? I think there are some things that I think I still am that are the same as, 10 years ago, which is, someone that again likes to create, likes to build, to just be connected. I'm a natural extrovert, so I really like to be among other people. But then in some other ways, I think that I am at least like trying to listen more to myself and like to who I am, and just do things in a sustainable way, because there's no point in again doing your own thing to then burn yourself through the process. That's something I always tell to my clients. It's why we do things step by step, little by little, because that's important to do it on a it's something that needs to last, right? And so you're building for the long run. But I definitely want to be a person that is open to opportunities and that doesn't say no to things before knowing if they could be a good thing, but that also has these like boundaries that can of course protect my energy. So I think it's nice. And in terms of what I'm excited about so many things, because I mean, again, the potentiality that we have also in the community are endless. But I mean, definitely, I'm excited about my next cohort of group coaching. It's in March. And actually, if anyone that is listening is interested, still have spots open. So that's going to be the second round. And now I'm working with my first group, and they're amazing. And I'm really so excited in seeing what they're building and to see their businesses come to life. And also, maybe then have them as, be their client one day, because the things they're building are extremely useful and relevant. And also, again, about building this community and keeping this community of entrepreneurs that can help each other be better, become more confident, and really just create great businesses that help other people. I've been talking about relaunching my own podcast for a long time, but I haven't. So maybe I just said it now, then I have to keep my word. But that's why I know how much it takes for these. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm always appreciative of people that do that and give other people space to talk. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, I started a podcast especially because there is a lot of silence from
Mm,
people that are really, working in valuable things and then have like beautiful stories like yours, organizing this for keep trying to give back. And then I'm also working, with, high profile startups and tend to be always on the spotlight, right? And that's good,
mm,
but I think they already get enough enough attention. So yeah, that's a really, and I also learn a lot on the process. Thank you so much, Val.